In this video, we'll learn how to create a SQL Server database 2014. The process is not really very complicated, it's pretty straightforward, but you need to know a few things, settings, and if you are new to the SQL Server world, you will need to familiarize yourself with the graphic tools. They have the SQL Server Management Studio, which you can find in your all programs and under Microsoft SQL Server folder and SQL Server Management Studio. If you have installed the whole setup for SQL Server 2014 on your computer, this can be found here. You can make a shortcut of this on your desktop or on the taskbar. In any case, this is what it looks like, the SQL Server Management Studio. First, we'll create the database using the graphical tools. In this, right click on the database node under the instance or SQL Server that you want to create the database on. There are several nodes you can see here: databases, security, server objects, and SQL Server agent, and few other things. So our purpose is to create a database, which is where you will be working most of the time. uh, let's see. So highlight the databases node, right click it, and you will see the first option, new database. Let's click that. Here in this dialog box on the left, you will have a pane where you can select different things, and the right side will change accordingly. So the very first thing is general. Here you have to give the name for the database you want to create. So let's say we want to create human resource database. Let's maximize it. What we see as we type the name for the database, this is the logical name for the file that will be created once you click OK. What logical name means is there are two files, one human resource, the other one is with the underscore log. So by default, SQL Server assigns these names, but you can change them if you want. You can see the first row has the file, which is the rows data, which is the main file where your data for the tables, stored procedures, and everything else will be stored. It is on the primary file group. The initial size is 4. We can change it to, let's say, 10. Auto growth by 1 megabyte, and it can go unlimited. You can change it depending upon your business situation. For example, you want to change the file growth by 10% or 20% or 30% if you are having several 100,000 or a substantial amount of transactions every day. I think that is a good idea to increase this. Maximum file size, you can choose that here, but keep in mind that if you have the disk space limitation and size reaches a limit, the database will shut down. And if you choose the limited to megabyte, let's say 100, and you reached 100, it will shut down the database until you go and change it to the different size, increase the size. But here, auto growth, you don't have to, it will automatically change. So for example, I want to keep it 10%. Every time, let's say the initial size was 10, it will change to 11 and so on. Let me change it back to unlimited. Click OK. The other file is the log file, which gets created and it captures the transactions. Where they are located? They are located in this default folder, which is on your C drive, Microsoft SQL Server. You can change this, change the name. Okay, this is due to the security. You can change, but it will not be on a portable media such as a USB drive. The partition of the disk that you have, if you have any, it'll have to be on that. So these are the file options. Let's go to the options here. Collation default. This determines the sort order. By default, it will choose, I believe, uh, uh, one of these, not all these foreign language sort order, but by default, it takes Latin something. I remember. We'll check that after we created that. Recovery model. This is important choice. If your database is online transaction processing database backend, you should have it on the full recovery model. What it means that in case of some bad transaction, or if you want to um, recover the database in a point in time, then you need to have the full recovery model. And compatibility level, which is SQL Server 2014, auto update statistics. Some of these options that you can change later on if you want, such as this file stream feature if you need it. File group, if you want to create more file groups, you can do so here or later on. What file group does is generally people create the file group and then create the database, and immediately after that they create another file group and make that new file group to be the default. So any further object creation and data will be stored on that. So these are some simple options you can have. Now what I want to show you here is that this button here, if I choose this or any of these, it will generate the script with all these options we have chosen on this, including the name of the database and options here, full recovery and whatnot. So this button will generate the script for that, which we can store in a file and use it for later or as a documentation. It is a good practice to create the database or any other objects using the T-SQL script, and we don't need to know the syntax yet. If we use this button, it will create for us. So I'm going to choose a script action to a new SQL query, and we'll check that in a minute. If I click OK, it will create the database. We can cancel out of here, and what we did with this script button, go and take a look at that script and then execute that. In either case, it'll work. So I'm going to create the database here. Click OK, and database must have gotten created. And this is the script that from the script button we had pressed. This is the exact same script that will create a similar database we did manually. So if I expand the databases node, we see our new database here, human resource. And if we delete this, all this script here will create the same database with the same options. So this is our new database. let's try that by deleting this database and then generating the database here. As you can see, if you are familiar with the SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio, these buttons show up by default, and execute, which is to execute this script, or if you have highlighted a portion of it. In this case, we want to execute the whole script, this whole page, and this is to parse and see if there is any error in this script. So let's check that. Database human resource does not exist. If I double click the error part, it shows me where the script is. The error in the script is. So you can see we are saying use human resource database in this portion of the script, while we have not created the database. Once we run this part, it will be fine. So if I highlight just that portion and verify it, it will work fine. It will work fine anyway, because once the upper portion of the script is executed, this will not be the issue. So let's go ahead and execute that. Successfully completed. So now if we go to the databases node, refresh it, we get our database. So I just wanted to demonstrate how easy it is to create a new database with a few simple options. We can store this file in a folder for file system on the file system, and later on we can either run this in the production. For example, in some companies, the developers don't have access to the production system. Pretty much in every company I have worked for. So a developer can create scripts and save it somewhere where the production DBA can execute those. So you can set up all what you want here and then store the script somewhere and hand over the file to production DBA. So let's save this on the file system somewhere here. Create database human resource. I hope this video has been helpful to you.